It's 1966 when he wrote it, and this is what the movie is based on. Germ theory. So in 1860, Louis Pasteur conducted experiments which caused him to discover germs. Unrelated, he also discovered milk, but he's the father of modern germ theory, and osmosis is based off of germs inside the human's immune system. So Pasteur wrote Osmosia in 1866, which is the first detective novel, and it describes the immune system as a massive city populated by millions of creatures and germs, or bacteria, if you will. And as this went against the prevalent scientific consensus at the time, witch theory, Pasteur wrote it as under an alias that he wouldn't be persecuted for his crimes, under the alias of P.G. Thunderfoot. Although Pasteur was never recognized for his creation, Osmosia quickly became a cult classic. That's an original copy. These are some of the bacteria that are depicted. Supporters of the witch theory, they cursed Pasteur in a midnight seance. Many popular theories suggest that the character Thaximus, renamed Thax in the film, is based on witches. On April 10th, Pasteur dies in mysterious circumstances. Only 4 people showed up to his funeral. One of these 4, his son, swore to avenge the death of his father. Movie adaptations of Osmosia, the unfilmable masterpiece. So, Osmosia, the book, became really loved by critics, and it was hated by mainstream audiences. And it was first adapted as a high school play by Orson Welles after he fell in love with the novel. Alfred Hitchcock, also before he passed away, he wrote a screenplay of Osmosia and proposed to film it, but his untimely death ceased that. Stanley Kubrick began the production of the Osmosis in 1970, but he left after creative differences with the Pasteur Corp. Because, they weren't seeing eye to eye, and he's a very, I don't know if you know, but he is very particular on the way he does his filming. Pasteur Corp, bought by Nestle in 1974, the chocolate milk magnate bought the company and absorbed them into themselves. Piet Kroon, a former Kubrick intern, became obsessed with the story about the Osmosis movies. In 1998, he finally secured the blessing of Pasteur's great-grandson, Louis Pasteur. This is them together in the filming room. That's Stanley Kubrick on the far left, and this is Piet Kroon. Breakthrough, the Kroon Crusade. On the 23rd of April, 1999, Nestle agreed to fund the production of Osmosis Jones. After showing them an early draft, Kroon convinces Bill Murray and Chris Rock to work pro bono on the film. Filming begins on May 13th. Now, this is a really big stepping stone, because this is the first time that the film's actually been put into production. But soon the corporate schemes get a little bit better. Opening day, the biggest tragedy since the stacking comes to know. Sadly, Osmosis Jones flopped at the theater, only grossing $12 million back from its $74 million budget. Piet Kroon keeps an agreement to keep 5% of the royalties from the IP, but he loses the contract with Nestle to produce the second Osmosis Jones. Despite this, Nestle still honors his deal and paid him 5% of all the royalties that they made. And 1 month after the film's release, Kroon's wife and kids mysteriously vanished, but it's unknown if they were, kidnapped or just ran away in shame. It's Piet Kroon. He's working hard. What happened? Where did it all go wrong? Why did it go wrong? Development hell, making a movie fail. Nestle contractually requires Osmosis Jones to at least have 7 product placements of Nestle products in the movie, and critics really noticed this, and a lot of other fatal flaws in the movie that they really didn't like. To help tie these scenes into the story, Kroon gave the main character Jones a crippling chocolate milk addiction. So there were scenes where he was just drinking chocolate milk, or he was going to get chocolate milk, or he was in chocolate milk withdrawal for over 5 minutes of screen time, which critics really slammed the movie for. And in another scene, Jones takes a shower and applies conditioner multiple times, and then shampoo afterwards. This scene went on for 10 minutes, and it was really, really hated by the critics. And it was based off of Kroon's own showering habits, so that's why he put it in there. I don't really know why. Marketing of Osmosis Jones. So Warner Bros. Agrees to distribute the movie and produce it, but Brad Ball, Warner Bros. President of marketing, holds many test screenings to determine the target audience. Ultimately, the movie was rated PG and shown across theaters all across the nation. This is one of the many trailers.
Into a body under attack from a killer virus. It's the action comedy that gets under your skin. You want to write that the video? Into your stomach and up your nose. Just the way I like it, extra disgusting. Please, you're going to make me vomit. Oh, no, not again. Chris Rock. You will white blood cell here. Molly Shannon.
What is it? What do you want?
Chris Elliott. And Bill Murray. Hey, have some class, will you?
Oh my God, I got the giggles.
Osmosis Jones. What is this?
Hi.
I'm feeling better already.
Keep coming, man.
Check it out.
So the pre-release scandal. The original slogan for the film was, "There's a Jones inside everyone," since it's based off the bacteria of your immune system. And Lucas Jonas, the lead animator of the film, was under investigation for indecent exposure, so that kind of caused a scandal. He was replaced. The slogan was replaced with "Everybody needs a hero" on all promotional material before it was even released. So kind of avoided it, the main part of the scandal. And after the film's release, parallels were drawn between Jonas's character, Uncle Jones, and Osmosis Jones' creepy uncle. So that just goes to reinforce, what's wrong with this story. And this is a picture of what he's assumed to look like after he went through the multiple plastic surgeries to hide his identity. Profiting post-release, merchandise and spin-off. Now, this is where they made the most money out of this movie. They actually made Osmosis Jones toys and action figures that kids really loved just because of the colors and vibrant things that they were doing. They were pretty cool, even though kids didn't know what the action figures went to. They just really caught their eye and stood out. And successful toy line led on to the franchise and eventually a cartoon based on the film, Ozzy and Drix. Again, kids haven't seen the movie, so they don't really know that it was a really bad movie. Ended up selling one of the background characters to Nintendo. He used the mascot for their Pokemon franchise. Most of you have heard of Pokemon. They don't know that it came from Osmosis Jones. Nestle ended up apologizing to Kroon and giving him back full creative rights over Osmosis Jones once they saw how profitable and how well these things actually sold. All right, so beyond merchandising, TV, aired on TV, typically in dead hours. It was a good filler program. You could cut it off whenever and no one would really get mad. So when you just needed to fill up some time, you could throw Osmosis Jones on there. And advertising crossovers. They would cross over Osmosis Jones with things like Nestle or other product brands. The Iraq War, in particular, MK Ultra and Dolphin Love. Home video, guerrilla marketing campaigns. So they would put them on VHSs and they would sell them for really cheap and just try to get them into as many households as possible just to generate some kind of income. Profits for profits, partnering with Scientology. Kroon's insatiable money lust could not be quenched. Osmosis Jones is largely based off of factual science. As is Scientology. The crossover made sense to Croon. He read L. Ron Hubbard's books, and he thought they made a lot of sense. Partnered with the vice chairman of the church, Robert Schmurda, licensed the Church of Scientology to use the Osmosis Jones IP in every spray paint, or in exchange for 10% of donations, along with supply of garbage bags and spray paint. Excuse me. Church of Scientology still has rights to the IP today, but hasn't used it. They've just kind of been sitting on top of them. Leaks show that David Miscavige plans to make a sequel with the church members Tom Cruise and John Travolta, but it's not known how these are working out after Tom Cruise left the Church of Scientology. Where is Croon today? By 2007, Croon made an estimated $42 million off the franchise. Spent 1/3 of the money buying a personal island where he still lives. He has a small farming colony with a few members of the church where they are free from government taxation. He's regularly spotted in Hawaii every few months, presumably receiving royalty checks and other things like that. He has been exiled from Hollywood and blacklisted by the Warner Brothers, and has since ended his career as a director. Yeah. So, Piet Croon is one of the best men I've ever known. He was a pleasure to work with and has been unfairly demonized by Hollywood. That work? Okay, turn off the recorder so I can get my check. Bill Murray. Why is Osmosis Jones hated? Nobody gets it. Simple as that. No one understood the struggle that Osmosis Jones went through or what was behind it. Conclusion. Overall, the movie is a masterpiece, and many of the flaws, such as the Nesquik tie-ins, were out of Croon's control. Seen as a cult classic similar to Paul Blart Mall Cop, and has generated a lot of discussion online. There's still a lot of people talking about the movie and the franchise itself. Croon managed to make tons of profit off of Pasteur's Theory and will still receives money to this day. Buy the soundtrack for $30.25 on Amazon. You guys want to check it out?
Later.
Later? The Iran nuclear deal. Not relevant. Sources.
Any changes
Hit it again.
back to your marketing, the original up front, the marketing piece, and the Bill Murray picture?
Yeah, no problem. All right, so that's the marketing slide. Anything in particular you would like to discuss?
I just wanted to review it. Okay. And Bill Murray?
Yep.
Yeah.
What?
Just saying.
You never seen Groundhog Day?
Yeah. I have. The funny thing is, he doesn't look like that in Groundhog Day.
He did.
I think he's a little older in that picture.
Yeah. Okay.
You can never tell. In Hollywood, they're losing weight, gaining it back.
All that CGI, I'm telling you.
All right. Well, fantastic. Any questions on those shows? All right.
No
Well,
questions?
thank you, sir.
Yep.